Sparky and Burdick. Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky live from our, I guess our studios, his studios down there at the Woolworths building. Sir, good morning. Good to see you. Let them know what they're in for, my friend.
At 842-2000.
Yes, you can. We got a lot to talk about. Jordan Addison as well finds himself in hot water again as he got arrested for trespassing, and this has got to be one of the roughest starts to an NFL career I've seen in quite some time. I'm not going to lie to you. And then on the other side of this as well, we got to talk all about this live PGA thing. Brooks Koepka gets to come over, but the other three apparently do not. Not sure exactly how that works, but apparently this is going to be one of those situations where the PGA gets to pick and choose who gets to come over and how they punish them for leaving in the first place. So if we get time, we'll talk about that. And we got Ryan Holt and baseball news as well, as it looks like a lot of these free agents are starting to figure out where they want to go. And Nolan Arenado has finally found a home out there going west, but unfortunately for Dodger fans, it's not where they wanted him to go. It's not, and I'm not sure exactly why, but to be honest with you, at this point, I think Nolan's just happy to get started with a new team. We'll let you know who that is at some point. But we got to talk about the biggest news from yesterday, my friend, which obviously is Mike Tomlin deciding that he will resign from Pittsburgh Steelers head coaching duties. He had 2 years left on his contract. He was not fired. I want people to realize that right now. This man was not summarily fired for what happened this season. He was not fired for losing the fan base, everybody calling for his head. He resigned. He moved down himself. He is just stepping away from coaching, from what we understand what that means. Who knows? I can only assume he's going to join his boy Jay Glazer in the Fox room and probably be one of the panelists over there that gets subbed out every so often. Maybe they move on from one of the older coaches and put Mike in there now. Who knows? I think he'd be a great person on television. I think that's a universally known thing that he can talk on a microphone and honestly will give all of his Tomlinisms that everybody loves every single Sunday. But as it sits right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers now have to figure out the biggest question, which we posed yesterday. Who do you replace him with? Where do we go from here? Who is the guy that's going to step in and be the next coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the next 2 decades? Because that's essentially what you're going to have to do. What are your thoughts, Mark?
I mean, I'm not too surprised. What is really surprising is the only coach left in that division is the Bengals.
I I mean, the Bengals situation, I kind of understand why you don't follow them, but this one, I can't see anybody that is really that big of an improvement in the off or in the head coaching situation. If we look at the history of what Pittsburgh has done in the past with these head coaching pickups, even going back to Cowher and Mr. Knoll that we talked about yesterday, defensive-minded guys, they're usually pretty young when you pick them up. That's how you can keep them for 20 years if you really sit there and think about it. But
Is this not just the perfect spot for Brian Flores?
it is. I mean, I was looking at that. I have 3 names here that I was thinking about last night, Sparky, if we continue down the same path that Pittsburgh Steelers go down. One of them is Brian Flores. Obviously, he used to coach there. He's got good relationships there. He's only 44 years old, and honestly, I think he fits the Pittsburgh mentality. You know how these coaches just need to be able to mimic the fan base at least and know that, they're gonna be rough and tough to you. Fans in Pennsylvania in general, I feel, are pretty rough to their coaching staffs and their teams in general. So if you're a Brian Flores like coach, I think you'll be able to do that pretty well. The other 2 that I was thinking of, maybe Jesse Minster from LA, taking this Charger team, making them a top 5 defense. He is a young guy as well. I think he's about 42, and he's got the Harbaugh connection. He's been in the Harbaugh umbrella for a while. And honestly, I think Harbaugh as well kind of fits the Pittsburgh style, that rough, tough nature. And then the other one that I was looking at that I don't think a lot of people are talking about right now, but he is fielding interviews. Don't know if he leaves, but what about Kelvin Shepherd out there in Detroit? And think of it this way: 38 years old. When Tomlin was hired, he was 34. When Cowher was hired, he was 34. When Noel was hired, he was 37. He fits the age range. He's a defensive-minded guy. He's been able to really take this Detroit defense, which I don't think a lot of people were thinking were going to be as successful this year as they were last year. And he's been able to at least keep the ship rolling. He is a leader of men. He's a former player in his own right as a linebacker. I mean, if we're talking about Brian Flores, I think Shepard should also be in the conversation. That's just me, though.
I mean, I've heard the names. I've heard, the whole Rooney Rule is all based out of Pittsburgh. I
Yep.
can see Flores as a perfect fit, but then it goes even deeper. I mean, if you bring in one of those 3 guys, are you cleaning house with your coordinator?
I mean, there's other options as well because the other one that's being thrown out there, who is also a Pittsburgh guy, Pittsburgh native, is Mike McCarthy. And the possibility of him going, and I know yesterday they were saying on McAfee if there was anybody that you could probably bring in to lure Aaron back for one more year, it would be McCarthy. I don't know if they have that close of a relationship to be able to salvage it, but at this point, if you want to go offensive minded, it wouldn't be the worst idea. McCarthy is a proven winner as well. I think there's multiple routes you can go with Pittsburgh, but really the biggest thing is going to be one, you have to be a leader of men. You have to be able to walk in there and take command of that roster, which is full of stars right now, and they have to be able to respect you. And two, you have to be able to really win the respect of the fan base that is now pretty much fed up. No matter who comes in here, they're expecting a Super Bowl. They're not expecting, oh, we're going to take a year or two to figure it out. And I mean, the other possibility I was thinking was maybe just moving up Arthur Smith to the head coaching job. He has been a head coach before, and obviously is offensive minded, so you wouldn't really lose out on anything. You keep the same culture. You would just have to fill his shoes at the offensive coordinator position. But personally, if we know anything about the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they do business, it's going to be a defensive minded guy. It's going to be a young guy. And it's going to be somebody like McAfee said yesterday is a leader of men that is most likely a former player.
Well, I just bring up the coordinators because the more I got into my prep, the more I heard that the owners and the GM weren't happy with the coordinators and what they did the last year or even 2 years. But I mean, it all it's this we've been talking about it for a month, man. These coaching vacancies are what, up to 8, 9?
I'm sorry, but the last part of that, what were you saying?
I'm just saying these coaching. I mean, last week it was, okay, well, the Ravens position is now
True,
the hottest spot,
true.
and Harbaugh is the leader of, okay, where's he gonna go? And now with Tomlin out, obviously, I don't see Tomlin just turning around and going back to coaching. I think the broadcasting
Right.
side, what you said, I think that's the position. But even if a team wanted to push hard for Tomlin, they're gonna have to trade for him.
Yes, because you're and like I said in the beginning of this, he resigned. He did not get fired, so his contract was not void. It continues regardless. And if he coaches for anybody, it's gonna be for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not gonna just let him leave. Like, they're gonna figure out some way to get something out of this. But I mean, again, I don't think anybody is going to be reaching out to Tomlin to do that. I think you said it right. I think he's just gonna take a year off at least, figure out what he wants to do with the future of this entire thing, and if he comes back to coaching, great, but honestly, he can hang his hat on the, 19 years he's got right now, no losing seasons. I've said this a million times, he's easily a Hall of Famer. Is he one of the best coaches of all time? I would make an argument for it, to be honest. Is he better than some of the other guys on the list? Again, we can have an argument,
Yeah, he's a
but
Hall of Fame coach, and he's on that list. And just when I thought, okay, he's going to take a year, maybe 2, 3 years, and he'll get into that big
right.
money broadcasting job. As soon as I turned on Jim Rome yesterday, he said Raiders have already turned and reached out to his agent and would trade anything to get him. And he's got a close relationship with Brady. But personally, I don't see Tomlin jumping over to a Raider team that's on a full rebuild.
No, I mean, again, because that I feel like was part of the factor leaving Pittsburgh. I do think the biggest thing that pushed him out was the fan base. the fan base turning on him, calling for his head. I mean, anybody would kind of get fed up with that, especially after the long, long history of you giving success to this franchise. Y In my personal opinion, I get why some fans can be fed up with it, but you need to at least respect who the man is and realize that he didn't have the talent on this team really to give you what you wanted. So, and again, I think he's just gonna step away from coaching, kinda like what I said about John Harbaugh a couple weeks ago. When you're with somebody for so long, 19 years, you're not just gonna turn around and just jump in with anybody else. And I mean,
Exactly, and management came out and said, "We're looking for a coach that could come in and do another 15 to 20 years
yes.
on this job, and they're gonna take their time." They're saying the interviews that they've set up are gonna be full, day 2 interviews, and they're gonna take their time, which considers, okay, even the press was asking them, is, "What about Harbaugh? What about Harbaugh? Maybe you guys swap." Like, dude, there is no way in hell.
You know what's funny? I do have that audio from him, but we don't need to go into it just because all he said was, "Wouldn't that be a crazy sight?" And he's right. Like, I've heard so many people say even the Carr brothers on their podcast yesterday released a video and said, "Oh, we should just swap them." John goes to Pittsburgh and Tomlin goes to Baltimore. And I'm like, no, no. I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh fans would be okay with that, to be honest with you. They don't wanna see their coach just jump over to a rival team, nor do they wanna see a rival coach come over to them. What
But
they
how cool would that be for entertainment?
Oh, it would be incredible television, don't get me wrong. Those easily both of those games would be primetime games, just solely because of that storyline alone. But I still just it's not gonna happen. I don't think John wants to do that. I don't think Tom or Mike wants to do that. I think both of them are gonna figure out what they wanna do here in the next couple weeks. We know now that it looks like we have some favorites for Harbaugh, which end up being the Giants, Falcons, and Titans. Still say he ends up going with the Giants. I think everybody is kinda leaning towards the Giants. If Atlanta picked it up, though, shoot, that'd be the shock of the year for me. I'm
Like,
not
I
gonna
wouldn't be
lie.
mad about that,
I'm not
and
gonna be
I
mad.
also heard, the coach over at Notre Dame, ever since
Marcus,
they've
yep.
said he's staying, he's staying. Well, there'll be a big press conference today to confirm that, but that was all said before Tomlin took the job or took the seat, and I don't know, man. That
Well,
that might be a an opening that he can't refuse.
although I agree that it is a enticing opening for any head coach to come and try to fill, but again, I have to highlight this man's got the best deal in football at what he's doing right now. He's at the University of Notre Dame. He has a fluid deal with them that fluctuates every single year. He gets paid a competitive rate, which no other coach can say. And honestly, I don't think he leaves. I think he likes being at Notre Dame. I think he likes the ambiance Notre Dame brings and just the history of it all. He's an old school football guy. Now, can some of his coordinators get picked up? 100%. In fact, one of them I'll talk about in a little bit when we get to the offensive side of all of this, because there's a couple offensive coordinator jobs that got let go yesterday as well, or opened up, I should say. But Marcus Freeman, he's not going anywhere. It's just like the Coach Signetti thing. Yes, sure, the pro team in Pittsburgh is now open. Yes, Signetti, I believe, is a Pittsburgh guy. Doesn't mean he's gonna jump ship and go coach in Pittsburgh after one successful year with the Hoosiers. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's always gonna be on the table, obviously, because everybody wants the top tier college coaches in the pros, but I just don't think some of these guys actually want that. I think some of these guys really love the college game, and they're not gonna really change that. I think they enjoy the positions that they have, Marcus Freeman being one of them. Now, can that change in the next couple of years? Sure, anything can, but it's not gonna be this year. I
But
don't think
how
you're gonna see it.
often do franchises like the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers
True.
have become available? And,
Once every
with
20
these
years.
guys that have been coaching for those teams 15, 20 years, I mean, these are golden opportunities for these younger guys, and I think that is what we really have to highlight is this might be a key moment in coaching history for guys like Brian Flores.
Right, 100%. And with guys like Brian Flores, this is the opportune time for you to really make a name for yourself and make the NFL really pay for what they did to you. Because if he comes back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, let's just say that happens. Let's say Pittsburgh offers him whatever lucrative deal he wants, and he comes back as a head coach next year. And then they get some sort of young quarterback, maybe a Justin Fields or somebody in the draft, and they go from a 9-8 team to a, what would you say, Spark, 13-4, something in that area, a dominant team in the AFC North. Would that not catapult Brian Flores right back to the top where he was before he left Miami?
Totally. And I think, I mean, looking at the vacancies for the head coaching position, I'm leaning towards Baltimore over Pittsburgh personally.
I mean, yeah, if we want to sit there and talk about the listings of the best teams to go and coach for, I would probably put Baltimore over Pittsburgh just because of the roster. I can say that you're right with that, and the owner has come out and said they will be restructuring a new deal for Lamar and hopefully get that done by March. So you will be having a franchise quarterback there at the very least, which Pittsburgh does not have. Honestly, I would put Pittsburgh actually lower than maybe even the Giants and the Falcons job,
Totally
only
agree.
because at least they have stuff to build on. They have young pieces that look fantastic.
And
Pittsburgh
personally,
still has gotta figure that out.
I think Rodgers is stepping away.
I think so too. I mean, we said that yesterday. I know he said after the game he doesn't want to make a decision after a really emotional situation, which we all can respect and understand. But yeah, I think that he really just leans on what he told the McAfee boys and says, "This is my last year. This was fun. I can go out the way at least I wanted to. I got us to the playoffs. Now, is it kind of ironic that his final pass was a pick six? Yes, especially with him being the most efficient quarterback in NFL history. But maybe that's just the full circle moment. Maybe that's sports just coming right back around and saying, "All right, dude, you were efficient for the most part of your career. Now we're gonna take one back as you bid adieu." So I do agree, though. I think Aaron is most likely going to be hanging up his hat here, and I think we get an answer to that probably by the end of the week. I would think, if not later next week, because I don't think he really looms on this very long.
Yeah, newly married, he's got a family. I think he's done. I think he got off that nasty taste in his mouth from playing with the Jets, and he got to the playoffs. He took Pittsburgh to the playoffs like he said he was gonna do. Yeah, it didn't work out, but hey, they got a playoff spot, you know, and now him, Tomlin can walk on and just walk away and let Pittsburgh. I personally think they're gonna bring in a coach, and that is a lot to rebuild. Not only do they have some stars, but they're all veterans, late
Yes.
veterans, all-stars, and personally, if I'm going in there, I'm starting to ship some of these guys out and starting to stock draft picks.
Honestly, depending on who it is, I think you would be right to do that. There are some guys that you just can't do because this is the Pittsburgh Steelers and they do lean on loyalty. But guys like Jalen Ramsey, I could see him being moved. I could see older guys on the offensive side being moved, maybe a Warren, because he obviously has been kind of fading out the last couple of years with Gainwell having a resurgence. Honestly, you could even have an argument to get rid of DK.
That's what I was just gonna say. I think DK with his, well, let's just say his personality,
Exactly.
I think it would probably be best to kinda ship him, get some, draft picks, get some younger players in there, and if it's a guy like Flores or even a younger coach, I think it's a perfect fit.
And beyond that, if you keep a guy like Arthur Smith, you already know a guy like DK is gonna be underutilized and not used to his, well, just like I said, he's gonna not be used to his fullest abilities. He's just not gonna be the wide receiver that he could be if you put him in the right offensive situation. It's just like George Pickens, and we saw with him going over to a team that's pass heavy. It's just like AJ Brown. You need to put these guys in situations where they can be successful. And honestly, I've said it a million times, no wide receiver on the planet can be successful in an Arthur Smith offense the way they want to be successful. Because an Arthur Smith offense will forever be done on the ground with that running back holding 90% of the touches. It really will. Let's take a break real quick on the other side. We'll get to another wide receiver who has found himself in hot water. Jordan Addison, once again, being I God, I'm a USC fan, you all know this, but when I see one of my Trojans get in trouble like this on multiple occasions, God, it makes it hard to really claim them, and he is a fantastic talent, but we'll get into what happened with Jordan on the other side of this break, of plus more stories from around the world of sports. Nolan Arenado headed west, and again, 3 live golfers will be staying with live at least for the foreseeable future until they can figure out how to get themselves back in the PGA. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk.
The Early Bird Special is your new wake up sports and entertainment show.
Welcome back. Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. We are also streaming video live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you'd like to come join us on there as well, you can join us on Instagram and TikTok. Just like, share, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. We got to get to this Jordan Addison stuff, and then we will get to the offensive coordinators, I swear, because the Eagles fans are absolutely rioting in the streets for good reasons because they finally fired Kevin Patullo. Finally. Finally. But it is what it is. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about Jordan Addison. We were talking about wide receivers that can't seem to keep themselves out of trouble. Jordan has been arrested as of 3:46 a.m. I believe yesterday. There's no date on the ESPN article, but it does say at 3:46 a.m. that Jordan Addison was arrested for trespassing. And unfortunately for Jordan, this is coming at a really, really bad time in his career, as this is the first season where Addison can actually be extended past his rookie contract. But I'm going to cite some things that Jordan has been dealing with, I guess, since he's been drafted. Now, mind you, he got drafted in 2023 as I believe it was the 23rd overall pick by the Vikings. Sparky, do you remember what happened to him that summer after he was drafted? Because I forgot about this until I read it again. He was popped for driving at 140 miles an hour. 140. I mean, we've been talking about wide receivers and everybody driving ridiculously in these sports cars lately. Can anybody top 140? I'm not sure. And that was the summer after he got drafted, mind you. He had never stepped foot on the field in the NFL game yet. Then, popped for a DUI last summer. It was pled down to a lesser charge. He was still suspended by the league. Then he was suspended by the league for 3 games for substance abuse policy this year in 2025 to begin the season, and sat in week 5 due to a coaching decision in the first quarter because he got in trouble. How do you not learn? How? And I mean, again, this guy is an incredible talent out of USC. He was a fantastic draft pick, and he's got 175 catches, almost 2,400 yards, 22 touchdowns in 3 seasons. That's in 46 games. As a number 2 wide receiver to a guy like Justin Jefferson, those are actually pretty solid numbers. And the organization, when asked about this and how they will be at least assessing its extension, they pretty much put it as 99% of the time, he is a joy to be around. But is that 1% too much to deal with? Personally, when you see the long list as Sparky has highlighted, I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. But let's see what happens here in his next year, in his final year of his rookie contract, because Minnesota's got a decision to make here if they decide, you know what, this kid's just too much of a hooligan for us to deal with. We've seen a lot of wide receivers have this type of the overall start to their career, at least when it comes to, getting in trouble. Rice is having this type of an issue right now. DK Metcalf, although not necessarily getting in a lot of trouble outside of or off the field, gets in a lot of hot-headed trouble on the field. I mean, should we all just kind of accept this? I mean, when we were in the T.O. and the Chad Johnson era, everybody was just shrugging their shoulders and saying, "Well, that's wide receivers. They're just, they're loud, they're animated, and they want the ball." So, is this not just the next step of that? Is now we're just getting dysfunctional wide receivers? I guess. Yep. I just can't, for some reason, understand how some of these guys can go about their careers, especially as a first round draft pick, get paid the money you do, and then within months shoot yourself in the foot. Within months. Like that's the thing that just I can't get my head around. But again, everybody's got what their vision of their life is in their own head. Maybe these guys were just trying to let loose with the money they had. They were young, but I have to agree, man, we're long, long list of top talented wide receivers just be dysfunctional off the field. They really are. They're getting in trouble with the law. They're getting in trouble with fast cars. I mean, we didn't mention his name, but Henry Ruggs. Everybody remembers that situation. I just can't see a I can't see a world one where Minnesota just continues with this kid unless he has the best year, becomes man of the year, and is given back to the community in ways that no other Viking ever has. But I don't see them looking at this and saying, he was just a disgruntled kid. We'll give him another shot. You know what I mean? There's got to be a line. There's got to be a level where a team says, "Meh, we're done." I've said it a million times. When you outweigh the amount of money that someone is paying you, when you are too much of a headache for somebody that is paying you a stupid amount of money, they're going to get rid of you just so
Yeah,
they can
I
save
mean,
the
you
money.
just said it. You weigh the options, you weigh the injuries, the suspensions, the stuff he does off the field, and then, okay, well, 99% of the time when he's in the building, he's great. Well, you can't keep him in the building 24/7.
Right. And honestly, I don't even think that would help you. I really don't. He would find a way to do something in there and get in trouble. I mean, again, trespassing charges. Now, mind you, his lawyers are trying to figure out a way to get all of this, wiped away as a false arrest and all of that. But whether that happens or not, we still have no idea.
Well,
And
more personal, I mean, is it just the receivers? I mean, Diggs had got hit twice in this season. I mean, Tyreek is still pinning charges. I mean, this is an ongoing thing with wide receivers.
that's what I'm saying. No other position in the NFL really has this level of issue. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we'll hear some corners get mouthy, but very rarely do you actually hear of just a position in general, especially, or maybe it's just the star-studded just position of the wide receivers. Maybe that's what it is because we know these guys' names more. But personally, I don't think there's another position in football that is more. Again, I keep using the word, but dysfunctional. Just outside of the game, they are wild, man. They really, really are. And maybe that's a personality thing. Maybe again, it's just them. Maybe they're trying to like let loose and be, have fun with the money that they got, which is fair. I think a lot of people, if you were given this amount of money, you'd probably do something similar. Hopefully not 140 miles an hour, but you probably do something similar because you're young and dumb. I just I don't understand why guys like this though continue to have these issues. Personally, if I was Jordan Addison, when you got popped for the driving under the influence, you should have immediately said, "Oh, it's time to turn this around. It's time to turn this around," because that got pled down. That literally got pled down to a lesser charge. You got given a gift, sir, probably because you're a wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, but you were given a gift, and to throw it all away like that is wild. But again, this is coming from somebody who sits behind a microphone 5 days out of the week and doesn't get paid millions of dollars. So I don't know nearly the issues that these guys gotta go through every single day. Let's talk about 2 other men, though, that found themselves or that now find themselves unemployed, as Kevin Patullo, as we said at the beginning of the segment, and Greg Roman of the Chargers, both offensive coordinators, find themselves without a job after being fired yesterday. Kinda makes sense. The Eagles, like we said, went from the second best team to the 18th best this year, and honestly, going from a top 10 offense, winning a Super Bowl the year before to a bottom 10 offense, barely scratching the surface of a first round playoff berth, you can't accept that no matter who you are. I think Kevin Patullo being moved was long overdue, and we're gonna see what happens. I hope they can figure that out, but I have some audio we'll play here in a second of where Marcus Spears believes that they need to head. And then Chargers kinda made sense as well. I was trying to wrap my head around it. There were moments where the offense looked fantastic, but they had their share of injuries, and when the offensive line really got bogged down, the offensive coordinator didn't exactly help them very much by changing up the play calling and trying to find something new. And that led to a 20-second rush success rate, which is not acceptable for any playoff team, especially not a Jim Harbaugh, excuse me, playoff team. Jim is a very much on the ground running coach. He wants his rush game to be at the top tier, and if you're not going to be the offensive coordinator to give that to him, well, he's gonna find somebody who is. So I'm assuming that that probably led to the firings of both men, and now both teams will be looking for offensive coordinators. Any list of names that you've seen that could be on a short list? I have a handful here, but I didn't know if you've seen any.
I mean, the Eagles will be a different type of guy. I think if they don't bring it in-house, I mean, there is a lot of talented offensive-minded coaches out there. Nothing really jumps out to me. I know Phil. I talked to Phil earlier this morning. He's got a lot to say about that. And really with the Chargers, I mean, can you really blame the offensive coordinator for all the injuries and really what has been going on with Chargers?
So, from everything that I have been reading with the Chargers is that they're going to be looking for more of a modern play caller, whether that just means a younger guy that's more suited for the modern game, I'm not sure. I would assume you just stick to somebody who Jim knows very well and honestly knows how to run an offense that Jim would be happy with. I think the plan is still to develop Justin. I think the eternal plan, at least until they move off of him, is to make Justin a top 5 quarterback. Because I think we've seen flashes of it, but there's not a lot of list of names, in my opinion, that could do that. I mean, the list of names that I have, Brian Callahan, the former head coach for the Tennessee Titans that was just let go this year, Zach Robinson from Atlanta, great with a lot of different schemes and stuff like that, plus somebody in the Sean McVay area. Tommy Rees from Notre Dame, that was one that I was gonna bring up, especially for these run-heavy teams, somebody that honestly made Notre Dame look fantastic with the rush game this year with Love and everything that they were able to do. I think he can take that and manipulate it into the pros. But the one that I keep hearing, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, Sparky, as well, that they were talking about all over the place on ESPN today is this Nate Scheelhaase from the Rams. He's the pass game coordinator. He apparently is the next in line in the Sean McVay umbrella to come up and get one of these big jobs. He has been under Sean McVay for quite some time. And honestly, the last major pass team coordinator to take this job, I believe, was McDaniels if I'm not mistaken. They might be wrong on that one, but that is a short list of names that I can honestly see getting picked up by either Philly or LA. But Marcus Spears had his thoughts on this as well and what they could be doing here in Philadelphia. So let's hear from Marcus real quick.
This comes down. What's best for Jalen Hurts?
So Philadelphia obviously having a slew of offensive talent, and from what we understand, will be moving off of AJ Brown if they can. Do you think anybody has the ability to really come in and be that coach, that leader to take these men and say, "Look, I know all of you are studs and you all want the ball, but we gotta figure out a way to actually do that." Because I think that's really the impasse he's in right now. You've got a lot of people demanding football, but you only have one football to give to all of these people. I think that's what Marcus is talking about, is that you gotta find somebody that's gonna be able to come in and work with these guys and really get everybody back on the same page, like we heard Jason say just a couple days ago, that some of you people may not understand within the locker room, there needs to be a camaraderie. There needs to be a just go do your job mentality. And I think that's what they need to be looking for in this offensive coordinator is somebody like Sirianni who's just going to look at you and say, I don't care what you're complaining about. Go do your job. I'll get you the ball.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I think with Sirianni and the ego that he's got, I think it's gonna be more of a guy that he can almost control, and I think you just hit it. I think it's something that we've been talking about for a while. I think AJ Brown's done in Philly personally. I think I don't know too much about the rumors of, if Jalen is not smart enough to read a big offense. I think they just need to go back. I don't know if it was a championship that got to their head or what, but going away from, the ground and pound, the player option with Jalen Hurts, which he really excels in, I think it's just something that they need to bring in, and I wouldn't put it past any of the guys that you listed or even a surprise type guy like Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, no, and McDaniel taking an interview with the Detroit Lions, I think that Detroit's trying to go back to the idea of having multiple head coaches on their staff to help Dan, because as much as I love Dan Campbell, it looks like he's got his hands full having to deal with not only the offense, but the defense at the same time. And honestly, I think you're right on the money, my friend. I think you just gotta find somebody that's got that ability. You just gotta find somebody that's willing to come in and not take the nonsense. And whether that means AJ's on the roster or not, because as much as we like to sit here and say AJ's out, we've heard the GM say it. It's hard to move off a guy with that talent. So maybe they find a way to keep him. But I don't know. I think everybody, after seeing that altercation between him and Sirianni in that game, I think we're all just reading the tea leaves here at this point and saying these two aren't really liking each other. Now, whether that's because of an effort situation, I mean, that's what Nick Sirianni says it was. But at this point, I just think the relationship between it is dead. And because of that, you need to find an offensive coordinator that's going to be able to work with the guys that are still going to be there, because there's going to be repercussions for that as well from the players. And you just highlighted as well, how do you handle the Hurts situation? Because he is a running quarterback. He is at the heart of his game, somebody that you want to have with the ball in his hands on the run. So you need to find a way to, I guess, reinvent that offense again, because that's really what made it good. The Super Bowl year was how unique it was and how many times they reinvented it. I mean, look at what they gave us with the tush push. If they don't have that kind of mentality, they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying a mentality of using that play, but the mentality of going into every game thinking, what can we do differently today that they didn't see us do last week? You need somebody that's gonna come in and do that, that's going to be able to have that kind of an offense. I'm not gonna challenge Hurts's ability to understand or know a big offense. I don't think that's the case. He seems like a pretty knowledgeable guy to me, and all
But
of
even
these
without
quarterbacks are smart.
Michael or, I could think of names like Brian DeBall. I
Yeah,
could bring up, there's still rumors that the guys in Buffalo aren't safe until they win a Super Bowl. So guys like Joe Brady and, there's a lot of offensive-minded guys looking for work.
Joe Brady was on a short list of names they did mention in that interview after the audio I just played. I just had to cut it off because it got too long. And honestly, maybe Joe Brady's the right guy. I don't know if Joe Brady's gonna just be going from offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator, you know what I mean? I think he is somebody that probably could sniff out a head coaching job at one of these teams, especially somebody who's looking for an offensive heavy guy. 'Cause a lot of these teams have to wait until these top-notch teams actually get eliminated from the playoffs to even interview their coaches in the first place.
So
So
say you're Joe Brady and you're
in
relieved of
Buffalo.
your duties in Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
Are you looking at, okay, well, I can take the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator job, or I can go be the head coach in Cleveland?
God, that's interesting, honestly, because that is a tale of two tapes. That's one team that needs a rebuild, but is right on the cusp of maybe being good, and then a team that literally just went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and you could win one with them. If you put those 2 options in front of me, I'd probably take Philadelphia just solely to pat my stats, as it were, as a coach. Because if he goes to Philly and revives that offense, he's the number 1 head coach prospect the next year. You're 100% right on that. So I think you have a point there. I think going to Philly, at least in that situation over Cleveland, is a much better spot for him. So, hey, you may have got me on that one, my friend. Let's take a
Oh,
break
then
real
you can
quick.
coach the Bengals
The
next
season
season after they
afterwards, yeah, after they
finally fire Zach Taylor.
and move off of Joe Burrow, because I'm gonna tell you right now, both of those things are gonna have to happen at the same time for that to be a thing. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we'll get into some baseball news for you guys that are baseball fans out there. Nolan Arenado has found a new team, and we had somebody get popped for an 80-game suspension yesterday. I'll let you know who that was because I'm not very happy about it, but it is what it is. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGBO Sports Talk.
Call or text into the early bird special at 661-842-2000.
Welcome back. Early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. We're also streaming video live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can come join us on all those social media platforms, including TikTok and Instagram as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. We do notice our subscriber list going up. We appreciate you all for joining us every single day. We got some baseball news, which we haven't been able to talk about in quite some time, my friend, because baseball has been at an impasse waiting for a lot of these free agents and whatnot to find their news. But the biggest story, which we have been kind of looming around for the last year, has been Nolan Arenado all-star third baseman for the Cardinals, wanting out of St. Louis for quite some time, and has finally found a trade suitor, and that would be the Diamondbacks. He'll be headed to Arizona to join their team next season. He did spike a deal to the Houston Astros last year with his no trade clause, but apparently found Arizona to be a better suited spot for him. Arizona claims that they are not really leaning on him to come in and be the entire offense. They actually want him more as a glove. 10-time gold glover, 6-time platinum glove, and honestly, one of the best defensive baseball players in the last decade. So this might be the right move for the Diamondbacks, but obviously they're just doing everything they can to stack up and get ready for this next season against the Dodgers because it is going to be a tall order. Tall order with the Dodgers continuously adding more and more to their roster for anybody to really beat this team. What are your thoughts on this, my friend?
That's all I have to say about that. I don't like it.
I love Nolan Arenado. Honestly, I like the D-backs. I think the D-backs are one of those organizations I'd like to see win. They were just in a World Series not too long ago, so maybe they can make it back with Corbin Carroll and company. I just, they have done a lot in St. Louis, and that's who I feel for. St. Louis is really the one that is losing out on all of this, and baseball is better with the Cardinals are good. So they have been shipping out almost every major star. I mean, they moved Sonny Gray, they moved Wilson Contreras. This entire team is going to be brand new next year. And I know a couple St. Louis Cardinal fans right now that are crying in their coffee just because they're seeing their best players be moved. And don't worry, Dodger fans, you're not left out. You guys made a move yesterday as well, as you signed infielder Andy Ibanez from the Detroit Lions for a $1.2 million deal for 1 year. Utility guy. For those of you who are wondering, he's most likely going to come in and be that guy that they need on defense to fill the spots when these guys need breaks. I would assume that you're going to see him a lot in the infield, taking over from maybe Mookie, Max, and all these other guys, especially since they have been injury heavy. But the one major glaring issue that I have to talk about, and unfortunately, this is one of my Phillies, or was one of my Phillies, no longer a Philly. Max Kapler getting caught for 80 games for violating the MLB's drug program. Okay. So I got a text immediately when this happened. And they said, performance enhancers, Philly, okay, I get it. Yes. One of our guys who wasn't even a major player for us got popped for performance enhancing drugs. Now, the weird thing about this, though, that I was reading into that I just couldn't wrap my head around, but he got a negotiated settlement from the league. He technically doesn't have to play for a team for this thing to start. As long as he waits out the first 80 games of Phillies year this year, because that's what they're going to stack it to, his suspension is fine. It works. It goes through. He doesn't have to play for a team for this actually to stand. That is kind of weird to me. Personally, I think if you're going to suspend somebody, you got to do it like the NFL. They're suspended the minute they step foot on a roster. Are you kidding? No. Baseball, I know it's a longer sport, it's a longer year, and you have to be able to allow these guys to, play when they can. But I mean, to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, you're suspended for 80 games for performance enhancers," but it's okay. You can spend it in free agency. We don't care. We don't mind if you just sit at home and wait 80 games to get signed. And that's kind of ridiculous to me. But he will be ineligible for the 2026 postseason, no matter who he signs with. In fact,
I like that rule.
I
I
love
think
that
that's
rule.
what changes it.
I
I
agree.
think that's the cool rule.
I agree with you 100%. That's the one thing baseball got right in all of this is if you get popped for PEDs, especially for a long season, granted, yes, you shouldn't be playing baseball until it's out of your system, but we don't want you in the postseason because clearly you're willing to cheat during the regular season. I don't know what you're willing to do during the postseason, and we are not having the Astro situation again. Not going to happen. Okay? Baseball does not need that. Let's take a break real quick. On the other side, we'll get into some of these other stories. PGA's found some guys that want to come back, but maybe waiting a year, and that might be an interesting move for some of them. And we may or may not, we don't like to get political on this show, but there was a pretty serious discussion yesterday in the Supreme Court about transgender athletes throughout the country. If we have time, maybe we'll get into that.
we'll break down what you guys need to know about this whole thing. Again, I don't like to get into politics, though, so don't expect a huge discussion about this one. But we'll be right back after this break. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk.
Stay connected with the Early Bird Special by finding us on Instagram, Facebook, Verdict.
Welcome back. Early Bird Special Hour 2 right here on KGEO Sports Talk 101.1, 12:30 a.m. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky live from our studios down there at the Woolworths building in downtown Bakersfield. We talked a lot of football and baseball already in the show. We're awaiting our guy Ryan Holt to talk all things Bakersfield Condors here at about 8:30. So if you are a Condors fan, you're going to want to listen out for that because they are on a tear here in 2026. I believe their record now is 5-0-1. The only game they lost was in overtime, which means we've won points on every single game in 2026 so far this season, catapulting your Condors to third in the Pacific Division. Only 2 games off the leader, mind you, in the Eagles, who were absolutely killing it for the majority of this season. And it looks like our Condors have a chance to catch them and take the lead in the Pacific Division, which would be fantastic for a playoff push. I'm just saying. Imagine all those home playoff games you guys get to be a part of. That'd be so much fun. Anyways, let's move over to the PGA real quick because there's been some interesting news out of that. The PGA has started what they're calling the Return Member Program. This is a program for, well, no, former PGA golfers who left for Live for in the last 2 years. It has to be a 2-year window period. And the big caveat here is they're only taking golfers who have won the championship and won one major. So you have to have won at least 2 major tournaments at least for them to even consider bringing you back. That's the thing. Brooks Koepka seems to be the first and only big that'll be coming back this year. And there's going to be some hefty financial penalties for him. I was curious. So I just looked this up, Spark. I want to get your thoughts on this. You are part of the MoneyWise guys over there. So under this new Koepka deal with the PGA, here's what his financial penalties will be. He is required to make a $5 million donation to charity. He will not be eligible to receive equity shares in the tour's player equity program and won't be eligible to receive a bonus from the season-long $100 million FedEx Cup bonus pool. All told, the PGA Tour's estimate Koepka forfeit would be somewhere between $50 to $85 million based on how good he does this season in the PGA. Wow. Holy hell. Is that worth it to you personally? That's pretty much your whole Live contract. I need to look up how much he made at Live Golf, but that is absurd amount of money. Well, and the other 3 names that were floating around as well that could have been brought back this season but have all decided not to were stars Bryson DeChambeau, Cameron Smith, and Jon Rahm. 3 names that the PGA desperately does want back. Do not get that twisted. They want these guys back. Jon Rahm, I think he has 2 years left on his Live Tour contract. DeChambeau has 1. They asked him about this yesterday during the Live Golf season opener press tour thing. And DeChambeau came out and said he had no idea about the financial penalties. He had no idea about any situation that was going on with Brooks, but he plans to ride out the rest of his contract, which he only has a year with. I would assume he comes back next season. If they don't slap the same amount of financial penalties on him, though, can you imagine how mad Brooks Koepka is going to be that he missed out on potentially $80 million? That is insane. They were, but, PGA has its own set of rules. It's kinda like the NCAA. They've been doing this for so dang long that they feel like they can really do whatever the heck they want because, yeah, they absolutely can. They're the only major golf organization in the world outside of LIV, but I can't sit here and say that this is warranted, dude. That's too much. I get the $5 million donation to charity. Okay, cool. That is giving back to the community. That's okay with me. But losing out on 50 to 85 million dollars worth of funds that you could potentially be getting by winning. And Brooks Koepka is not a scrub at golf. He is good. He's a good golfer, which means he's gonna be in the mix for most of these tournaments, and he can't even make money off of them. That is absolutely insane. If I'm Brooks Koepka, I'm not taking this year seriously at all. I'm not taking this seriously whatsoever. Yeah, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm in the PGA, but I'm not really playing in the PGA," if that makes sense. Like, I want nothing more than just to make money at this point. That's just absurd. I mean, I know Liv dragged all those guys over there with lucrative contracts like you talked about and convinced them all to leave the PGA, and the PGA live it up. Don't get me wrong. That I have no idea. I assume that they can't touch his endorsement deals if he has any, and Brooks Koepka is a very well-known golfer, so maybe they just pound the pavement and make up all that money in endorsements, or maybe he's got a ridiculous amount of money already surplus from his wins in the past. Who knows? But at this point, I'm just looking at that price tag. I'm just like, it was 50 to $85 million for me to come back and play in the PGA. God, if he imagine if he doesn't win. Imagine if the move to live somehow stunts his ability to be good on the PGA Tour. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't do well at the Masters anymore, or the PGA Championship, or the British Open, or any of those major tournaments, being at the bottom of the barrel. Then he's going to be so livid at himself just for leaving the LIV Tour in general. And this entire thing is just wild to me. I can't believe the entire price tag that's being asked. And honestly, oh, at this point, and that's what I think Bryson meant by I didn't realize how big the penalties would be. I think that's more what he's saying is, I was thinking about it, but when I saw Brooks Koepka's penalty deal, I said, "Oh, no, I'm gonna stay here and make money, and then maybe I'll save that money for when I'm ready for next season to come back to the PGA and actually make this work." But it is wild to me, and I mean wild to me, that it is a $85 million price tag to go from live golf to PGA golf. Wow. I mean, I
No,
know the
that's
PGA is
insane.
full of
That is
themselves,
insane.
but
And I just got the tweet from Adam Schefter.
oh,
Mr. Adam Thielen is calling it a career.
yeah, that one I kinda saw coming too. Unfortunately, his last years were just kinda floundering after he left the Minnesota Vikings. He really loved playing for the Vikings. Honestly, that's one of those receivers that I think should never have left. I know it wasn't his decision to leave. He more was kind of forced because Minnesota didn't give him the money, but I wish he would have played his entire career in Minnesota and see what we could have got out of that. Do you think that this kind of put a damper on his career this last season? Because I mean,
I mean,
again,
didn't he went to Carolina
he
and
went to
did
Carolina
what
for a
he
short
finished
minute.
it off in Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, he was playing with Aaron on that last game
I
for
was
a
gonna
little
say
bit.
because he had a hell of a catch in that last game. I mean, he
And do you
his
think
better
this
years were in Minnesota. Obviously, I wish all players would stick with their main teams where they succeed. But money is money, and it's business is business.
true? The thing that I'm thinking here is too, I mean, it's kinda like the WWE at this point. Some of these guys retire and then try to come back in 4 years. I mean, God only knows if he tries to make a resurgence, but it was a great career for Adam Thielen. I'll look up his career stats right now and let you guys know what they were, but he definitely is one of the better wide receivers the Vikings have had in the last 10 years, and, I mean, obviously, he won't be actually sniffing a Hall of Fame here, but I think you could say it's a respectable career for him. I I would assume, especially for where he started, and before Justin got there, he was really the whole offense for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, coming from Minnesota State, he did his entire career in Minnesota. It would have been nice to see him end it there, to be honest. 12 seasons, though, in the NFL is pretty dang impressive. Give me one sec here. He had 700 catches, 8,497 yards, 64 touchdowns in his career. That's pretty impressive. I mean, again, and for somebody the last 12 years, that's nothing to shy away from. He may come back as a wide receiver coach.
I was gonna say, especially the type of receiver he was, the smaller guy with the almost like a Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type guy, but he was a hell of a receiver. I mean, I remember, fantasy teams and, naming their teams after him. I think he's gonna be truly missed, but, I mean, he's one of those few wide receivers we don't hear post game with any drama, I'll say that.
No, 100%. Again, as we were highlighting in the first hour of this show, I think a lot of teams could really use a lot more of those wide receivers. I just when you get a no nonsense guy like this, it sucks to see his career end, but 12 years in the league, he's gonna get a fantastic pension, and honestly, if he doesn't go down in the Minnesota Ring of Honor, I'd be shocked. I really would. I think he deserves at least that. Like I said, won't be sniffing the Hall of Fame. Let's not get crazy, but definitely Ring of Honor for the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's a pretty safe bet on top of everything. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, my friend, because I saw this the other day and I meant to mention this, but NASCAR seems to be moving back to a 10 race chase championship format. They have moved off of this in the last couple of years, but in 2026, they're moving back to it. And honestly, it kind of makes it a little bit simpler for fans like me who don't watch it a whole ton, if you can narrow it down to a 10 race format where every top tier driver is going to be trying to take points away, I think this will be a little bit easier for fans or for a common fan, I guess, to indulge in and ingest and make this a little bit more fun for some people to actually go back and watch NASCAR. When you ex- when they expanded it a little bit, made it a little more hefty for people to go and make points and make a championship run. It made it a little too convoluted for some or non-serious fans of racing. I think going back to a 10 race format would actually be a pretty good thing. What say you?
I would say the same thing. I just wish I miss the old days of NASCAR. That's all I'll say. I mean,
Oh, this
all
is kind of a
the
step back towards that.
changes and that they've made over the years. I do miss NASCAR, man.
I mean, this is a move back towards old school NASCAR ways. I mean, and especially with the commissioner, we haven't talked about this at length, but the commissioner has been under fire a lot lately in the NASCAR world. I this could just be a tipping point that moves them towards a fan favorite situation, getting people back into these racing raceways and watching these races as much as they used to, because it has fallen off in the last couple of years. I just think if you could simplify it, it'll make it a little bit easier for the non-common fan like myself, somebody who maybe catches it in passing, to really digest the game and really understand why they race the way they race and what makes these races so important to win. I think we always hear the name Daytona 500. We always hear the Indy races and stuff like that. We never really understand how important those races are to NASCAR sometimes, especially if you're not a devout fan of racing. So maybe going back to a 10 race format will actually help that. Maybe going back to that kind of a format will make it easier and more digestible for some people to really get going and figure this whole thing out. And honestly, like I said, I can't necessarily say I miss NASCAR in the way it used to be. You watched it much more than I growing up, my friend. But what is it about old school NASCAR that you miss the most? Is it just the amount of races? Is it just the way they raced?
I think it was more when they stepped in and put all the regulations in and where every car has to have this and that and this, and it kind of took away from the racers that found their mojo and okay, well, he's on a hot streak, you know what I mean? And when they stepped in about 7, 8 years ago and everybody had the same type of motor, they had to have the same type of regulations, and it kinda just took away from, the younger Harvick days when he came in and he was just beating everybody, and it's just one of those things that they had to do for the safety of the racers, I understand it, but it just took away from the good old races that, everybody knew who was gonna be hot and who was not, and it put fires into racers that, the Brad Keselowskis and guys like that that nobody really knew about
Mhm.
until they went on this streak. They found that engine that they liked and it was working. So I just miss those good old days. But hopefully we'll get back into that with the shorter race and the 10 races. I mean, I really enjoy the playoff race that they put in the last few years. I mean, that really puts the energy back into watching racing.
True, and honestly, the playoff format I think was a nice idea when they pitched it. The thought of just NASCAR getting its own version of the playoffs, because I mean that is the most exciting time for most sports is when you get into that kind of a format. I think the 10 race situation though kind of is your playoffs, right? Like that kind of is the idea that you guys had. It just didn't have the name, and going back to that would make more sense. And then, honestly, I think it just makes it more the playoffs are all year round. This is more of like a you can't slip once kind of a situation. And helping NASCAR move towards that, I think would be good. And as far as the regulations, I agree with you on that one. When you take away the uniqueness that you were able to customize some of these cars with, you did take away a lot of the fun of finding the right engine and the right moves and all of that type of stuff that people don't really understand if you're not fully into the game. But is it not kind of a smart move as well, though, just to make sure some of these guys weren't using stuff they weren't supposed to? You know what I
Of
mean?
course,
Like,
yeah.
we have heard it in the last couple of years, maybe not in NASCAR as much as we do in IndyCar or Formula One, but there are a lot of situations where these people try to cut corners in ways just to make the car faster. You know what I mean? And that could greatly, greatly, greatly put the driver at risk. So
100%. And maybe after the break, we've got a lot of NBA news that we can get into as well, as there was a big matchup last night. Plus, Giannis and the Bucks, man. Giannis booing with the fans after they got spanked last night. We'll get into that and much more.
yes, absolutely. Let's take a quick break and we'll get into that. We got our guy Ryan Holt coming in at 8:30 as well. Talk all things Condors before we get out of here. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGEO Sports Talk.
Call or text into the early bird special at 661-842-2000.
Welcome back. Early bird special right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 1230 AM. I'm Burdick. That's Sparky. You can join us on all social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that type of good stuff. Just give us a like, share, subscribe, all that type of good stuff. Let's talk about the NBA, my friend, because there are a couple things that we can get to before we get to Ryan Holt from the Condors. First and foremost, you've already mentioned it. Giannis is turning on the team. Giannis was seen booing with the fans yesterday after the Bucks get their butt handed to them once again this season, to be completely fair, and they haven't looked very good all season. But is this just further indication that we're gonna see a divorce between the 2 here in the next couple weeks, I would assume? It really is. I mean, we've been talking about it for over a year now, and the possibility of this divorce has always been on the table just because, like you said, they haven't really put the team around Giannis to really make it fun for him to play basketball there, let's be honest. So right. The price tag is gonna be a couple draft picks and at least a star player. At least. Or maybe not a star, but you know what I mean? Somebody who's above the average role player. It's not gonna be just like a Nas Reed, you know what I mean? It's gonna be somebody on the precipice of being a star. I honestly say the Atlanta Hawks still have a fighting chance at this, especially after trading off of Trey Young, and they have some pretty big interest in trading with the Dallas Mavericks as well for Gifford, if I have read correctly. So maybe they make a pairing of Gifford and Giannis along with Ricochet and all these other young guys that they have down there. I think that that is a possibility, but honestly, really anybody in the East would benefit from getting a guy like Giannis. I've even heard Cleveland in a short list of teams that might make a move, maybe trading Darius Garland and Jarrett and some other pieces to get Giannis over there to Cleveland to pair up with Donovan Mitchell. And that would be sweet, but at the same time, I'm sitting there thinking about it and saying, would it really improve the team? You know what I mean? Like, I love Giannis. But we are in a day and age now in the NBA where it's not about one guy anymore, it's about having a team. You need to be able to have depth. You need to be able to have a bench. You need to be able to have guys come off of that bench and be able to score baskets, maybe not as good as your starters, but at least be reliable. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. I think the Knicks are content. I think that with what you have already in this season, you're pretty much on a race for the first overall spot in the East. I love Detroit and what they've been able to do with JB, but I'm not 100% certain that they can continue to do this and have the same respect or at least the same success as they've had throughout this entire season. So I would assume the Knicks are gonna be that number 1 seed going into the playoffs, and probably that's why. I think that's they realized we made the moves in the offseason. We don't need another star. We got the guys right here. Because again, like I just said, they focused in the offseason on upgrading the bench players. The guys they weren't using, they got rid of. The guys that are there now, they absolutely have faith in. And this is the key piece that has been missing from that team. We've talked about it with Thibodeau. He relies too much on the starters. That was because he didn't rely on the bench players. He couldn't rely on the bench players who just didn't have the faith in them that you need. Now, Mike Brown is making an entire team based solely on that, being able to trust everybody, whether you're a starter or a bench player, to come in, job done. So, yeah, I see him potentially being there, maybe in Miami, because we have talked about them needing a superstar for the last couple years, but I agree with you that I don't see him bouncing around. Whoever he goes to, this is it. This is gonna be the last team he probably plays for in the NBA before he finally goes back to Greece and retires. I genuinely think that he needs to be sent to the team that he's going to have fun playing on, and that in itself is probably going to eliminate a good amount of the league because you're not gonna see teams like the Wizards or some of these lower teams make another major trade like that because, 1, they don't have the draft capital, but 2, they aren't shooting for a championship, and I think at this point, Giannis is shooting for championships. He's shooting to make that a thing and to win rings before he inevitably walks away and says, "My time in American basketball, at least, is over," because we all know he wants to end in Greece. The other story that I wanted to get to, we've talked about the Lakers ad nauseum the last couple of weeks because they have been up and down, and even JJ Redick, their head coach, is starting to show some frustrations all around the media days just because they can't shoot or they're not listening to them or whatever. One, I have to commend JJ Redick for everything he's doing because personally, I like that. I think the coach should hold the players responsible for what they're doing on the court, and JJ is just doing exactly that. But the story that I wanted to bring up to you that I thought was interesting, that I think you'll find interesting as well. Did you see the patch on LeBron's jersey? Did you see what the NBA did? The NBA gave LeBron his own 23 season patch that he is wearing on his jersey from here till the end of the season to commemorate his 23 years in the NBA. You wanna talk about favoritism. Like, don't get me wrong, I know it's LeBron James, he's the king, I get it, he's been the face of the league, but are we really we're making patches for him? We're like, you might as well just make him a whole crown. Like, why are we just solely and is it funny to anybody else that none of the other players in the Lakers wanna wear it? None of them. I don't get it either. Like, I get that you're trying to commemorate his long career, but I don't think you should be doing it this year. You know what I mean? Like, do it on the right. Like, do it if you do it at all, do it on the retirement tour. You know what I mean? Like, and unless this is the retirement tour and he hasn't told anybody. Right. And honestly, I've seen a lot of commentators pretty much say, "Well, this just further shows that LeBron is only about LeBron." LeBron has always been about LeBron. It's all the LeBron show. If it's not about LeBron, he doesn't wanna be about it. I'm not gonna go that far. I don't think it's that much of a thing. He probably didn't go out to the NBA and request this patch. They just gave it to him. But I still have to sit there and question it because like you just said, why are we doing this now? Why not wait a year or 2 when he finally announces, "Yeah, this is my last year. This is it. I'm retiring after this. Sorry, everybody, but my career is over." Then you give him the patch. Then you give the retirement tour and, everybody claps for him. You get the chair, and the trophies, and all that type of stuff, the signed jerseys. Like, that's when you do this. Why are we you're just giving haters ammo at this point is pretty much what's happening. You're just giving LeBron haters ammo because now everybody's just gonna be going around saying, "See, LeBron's full of himself. All he wants is stuff for him," even though he probably had nothing to do with the patch made at all. I don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes, but I'm gonna assume that's the case because I don't know the NBA to take really take any kind of not challenge, what's the word I'm looking for here, demand from a player because that's essentially what this would be. Is LeBron going to Adam Silver and saying, "I demand a patch. I demand you show how great my season, my year is with year 23 by putting it on my jersey every day." I don't think that's what happened. I really don't. Right. Oh, yeah, 100%. Don't get me wrong. I do believe he wants that for himself. Every player would want that for himself, but we can't give it to him early, you know what I mean? Like, wait a year and give him next season when he is moving towards that retirement. You know what I mean? Like at this point, I really just don't get why they're doing it. And the other story I want to highlight too before we get to our guy Ryan Holt, who is calling in right now. John Morant has come out and talked about the trade rumors about him being moved out of Memphis, and he says, "Live with it." Is that really surprising to you that that's his answer to all of this? Oh, I forgot about that. Absolutely. You know what? We're not gonna go to a break because you know what? Why would we do that? Let's just bring in our guy Ryan Holt. Let's talk some Bakersfield Condors because he is on the line right now, and the Condors are absolutely on a tear right now. 5-0-1 in the 2026 year, and don't look like they're slowing down whatsoever. I let you guys know they've jumped all the way to third in the Pacific Division since last time we talked to Ryan, and it looks like we are headed towards even more points this weekend. We take Calgary in Calgary. Ryan, what's going on, man? Can you hear us?
Hey guys, good morning. How we doing?
Oh, can't complain, my friend. Let's talk about this. I mean, we are killing it right now. I mean, is it any better time to be a Condor?
No, it's been a good run, and I think last week was probably the most impressive week. Just for the team, we had 10 regulars basically out of the lineup, and for those that don't know, we usually dress 20 players on a given night. So basically, half the team that we would normally dress was either injured or, for the most part, we had a nasty flu bug kind of going through the team last week. And,
Ooh.
with traveling and with bus ride and with planes everybody just kind of caught it at some point, and we had 10 guys out of the lineup, and yet we collected 7 out of a possible 8 points on the week. The home game on Sunday was terrific. Against a very good Ontario team. We were traveling back from San Jose. We got back in at around 2 in the morning.
Mhm.
Ontario was here waiting for us. They didn't play the night before. We had all the injuries, all the illness, and yet these guys made no excuse. And Connor Unger pitched a 25-save shutout. We ended up winning it late on a power play goal, and ended up pulling away with a couple empty netters. But just a really impressive week, and it's a fun time to be a fan and fun time to be around the team.
And another guy, I mean, we talked about Connor last week. Obviously, he's been on a tear at the goalie position. But one thing I want to highlight is kind of what you talked about right there. The fact that the team had to turn around on a short day. You got back at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you're taking on the number 2 team in the Pacific Division. What was the mindset going into that game? What was the locker room kind of like? Especially like you guys said, you were beat up,
Yeah, it was kind of that back against the wall mentality. You had nothing really to lose, right? There was every excuse in the book as
right?
to why this team wasn't going to win, right? Ontario's not a great matchup for us. They play stylistically the complete opposite of how we like to play. They're big, physical, they're in your face. We have those guys, but we're mostly a team that likes to score and a team that likes to be a little flashy, which is
Mm.
fun to watch as well too. But stylistically, it makes for a difficult matchup for us. And I think Unger was solid, and then I think this team has learned how to just hang around in games. Right? It was a solid game from both sides. There was no goals obviously until the final 2 minutes of the game, but
Mm.
I think this Condors team has learned how to not force things, not press when not needed. And at the end of the day, we get a power play. Our power play's been lethal. It's been our bread and butter all year. We get a power play with under 2 minutes left. That's go time for the group, and Mariella ends up scoring, and then we tack up a few just for fun at the end there. So, great team win.
So 4 points away from the top team right now. I know we play Colorado a week from today at home, but we got Calgary in between that. How big are these two Calgary games before we see the number 1 team?
Yeah, I think it's just about continuing the momentum, right? You just want to keep building off good weeks. And Colin Chalker's often talks. Usually we play 3-game weeks, right? And that's 6 points available. So every week you're just in search of 4 points, really. And if you continue to do that over the course of the month, you stack weeks, you stack months, you're going to find yourself in a good spot. You don't need to have that perfect week. You don't need to go out and win 5 in a row. You just need to trust the process to keep going week by week. And, last week we had a very good week. We got 7 out of 8 points, on a week where, we probably weren't projected to get 7 points. So, this team, first day on the ice Sunday is should have a lot of the guys back that were, kind of sick and under the weather for a couple of days. So that'll be good for them. Cody's done a great job giving them a couple of days off. And yeah, it'll be travel day tomorrow up to Calgary, and then 2 games against the Wranglers, a place that we, historically had, mixed results in Calgary. Calgary's been just okay this year. I think we're the better team, but you have to go out and prove it night in and night out.
And that could be a problem too, though. I mean, we could be walking into essentially a trap game, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah, and I
what-
think, this team, is I'll use the word naive. It might just be, the youthfulness of the group. They don't know, that they're not supposed to win games. They don't know that they're supposed to win games. They just know that they go out and play hockey. That's what they enjoy doing. So I think the veterans and those that have been around have kind of seen how the Pacific plays out year by year. We know that, the team in that dressing room is good right now. I don't think they realize they know how good they can be. And I think, like I said, October, this group was finding its way. I think this team looks a little bit different in November, December, January, and then by March, hitting on all cylinders. So if this is what the group is at 60, 70%, I'm excited to see what it can be even at 100%.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I think this could be a really fun season for the Condors, especially with the way the 2026 year has really started. But one thing that I'm always curious about, especially when it comes to like the AHL or like in baseball with AAA, when you guys are on a heater like this headed into the playoffs, how likely is it that we can have some of these players maybe lose their spot, or not lose their spot, I apologize, but get called up to the NHL level when you have a pivotal situation going on down in the AHL? How often does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, and whether anybody wants to hear it or not, that we make no bones about it that the number one priority for this entire organization, meaning Oilers, is to win the Stanley Cup. So whatever needs to be done to support that is what will be done. Whether that's developing a player and moving them on to the next level full time, whether that's bringing in another ingredient, for a special game or maybe a matchup that they have at the NHL level. So obviously the Oilers are going to be a playoff team, for the NHL and the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, usually when you get in a situation where the NHL and the NHL club are both in the postseason, they usually won't. They'll take some extra bodies only when they need to. So we saw that last year. It wasn't until the Condors were out that they ended up taking 6, 7, 8 guys for the big club.
Right.
They'll have some extra bodies around, but it's not a huge number until you get eliminated. So your team going into the end of the season is usually your team going into the postseason. But yeah, that can change day to day based off injuries, and we've seen it time and time again where guys are playing in the Condors AHL playoffs, Calder Cup playoffs, and then a week later they're in the Stanley Cup final or in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's that close and that much of a success story for those guys and the organization.
Absolutely. And we're running out of time, so I got one last question for you, my friend. Obviously, we like to ask you what you guys have coming up for the next home game. I know this week there are no home games. We have some rock bands coming in this weekend into that kind of thing. But next week, obviously, we'll be taking on Colorado Eagles twice in a row in 1 week. What can we expect for the promotions?
Yeah, it should be great games on the ice. Colorado has kind of been up the top for the last basically the entire season, and now they've kind of been caught by not only us but also Ontario. So Wednesday's a Wiener Wednesday, so $2 hot dogs and $5 beer, and then Friday night should be a big crowd. We have adult jersey giveaway for 2,500 fans, 18 and older. So we've done the kids giveaways. Obviously, we've done youth giveaways and youth jerseys. This is our second year doing adult jerseys. So I was basically just tired of middle-aged women trying to fit into the youth medium jerseys and wear those. So we basically just came up with the adult jersey. So it'll be a Condors replica jersey.
Sweet.
First 2,500, 18 and older, and it's also $3 beer Friday. So Nick Ultra and Mango Carter just $3 through the start of the second.
You sold me with the adult jerseys, but now $3 mango carts. I can't say no. I can't say no to
Yeah.
that, my friend.
Oh, yeah. It's been great. Yeah, we've always tried to mix it up and stuff. And Mick Ultra's always kind of been in there. We've had Bud Light in the past, and last couple of years we did some seltzers, and then this year Golden Road came on board. So let's do some mango carts. So hey, mango cart it is.
100%. Sir, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we will talk to you next week before the game against the
Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, brother. Let's take a break real quick. We'll get some more stories on the other side of this break before we get out of here. This is the Early Bird Special right here on KGE Sports Talk.
Call or text into the Early Bird Special at 661-842-2000. Special, 7 to 9 a.m.
Welcome back. Final segment of the show right here on KGEO Sports Talk, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. You can also join us live on streaming, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're live every single day from 7 to 9. I want to thank our guy Ryan Holt for coming in, talking Condors with us. Hopefully you guys get out to those big games next week, or not this week, next week against the Colorado Eagles. We'll talk to our guy Ryan one more time before those games get kicked off. But that is the number one team in the Pacific Division. And if the Condors could pull off 2 big wins against them, pretty sure we'd be able to jump. Just saying.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
see how
go
it goes.
Condors down.
Let's see what
And
happens.
if you're a big concert goer, our first big concert of the new year at the Dignity Health Arena is this Friday with
Yes,
the
it is.
Offspring and Bad Religion.
I will hopefully be in attendance. I have been
Me
an
as well.
Offspring fan since I've been a kid, so I cannot wait. Hey, you know what's funny? While I was in the SNO area over the weekend, we went to this pool hall that has a T-shirt shop right in the front of it. I can't remember the name of it right now, but if you know or if you've gone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was a Bad Religion T-shirt that was looking at me dead in the face. It was red. It had the nuns on it and stuff like that. I was like, I didn't think I'd be going to this concert. If I knew I was going to this concert on Friday, I would have bought that shirt immediately because it was staring me in the face the whole time we were playing pool. And I'm so mad at myself. I looked at my roommate yesterday when I learned I got the tickets, and I was like, mother, if I only had thought ahead. If I'd only thought ahead, I would have the best T-shirt at this concert. I really would have.
I've seen them both live before, and they are both great entertainers, and they are good live. I'll be out there, and if you're listening to 101.5 Big FM this week, I will just say I'm giving away 2 pairs of tickets every day this week from noon
Yes,
to
yes.
3 on 101.5 Big FM.
You don't want to miss out on that. Plus, you get to hear our guy Sparky every day on Big FM. What's the best day? Getting to listen to Sparky.
Of course. And I'm hearing some news out of the NFL. Harbaugh has set up his first official visit, and it'll be with the New York Giants later today. And news out of Vegas, the betting favorite to take over the Steelers head coaching position is not only the Rams defensive coordinator, Chris Shula.
Is it really? Okay. I mean, I did not on a short list of names, obviously, that I gave you, but if that's the route they want to go, I can see it. I mean, I thought for sure Brian would be the first one they call.
You would think, right?
When I was the first person I thought of when I was looking at the short list of defensive coaches there, I was like, well, of course, Brian Flores. He was there for the linebacker coach. I mean, he was there right after the Miami debacle. They love him there. Why wouldn't they bring him back? Maybe not. I don't know. But again,
I don't get that one. I know Shula is a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
And I was hoping he would kind of slide under the radar and come to Miami where his grandpa coached.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I would like to see that happen more than anything, just because of the longevity, or not the longevity, the legacy part of it. Just to see him come back and be the next Shula. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe he can be just as good as his grandpa was, and
Maybe
turn
his
around the
dad would
entire
be up
season.
on the Raptors as well. But
You never know.
something I wanted to bring up before we got away is this whole, Anthony. So
Yeah.
the unibrow. I'll just call him the unibrow.
Yeah,
So it
unibrow.
was big news yesterday that reports were coming out that he was going to have surgery and that he would be out pretty much for the remainder of the regular season. But they did throw out that he could be back for the playoffs for any contenders, and that the team was actually taking offers. And shortly afterwards, he came out and declined all of that, said it's all lies, that I don't have to have surgery and I should only be out a couple of weeks.
Well, see, here's the thing. The first doctor told him he does need surgery. What he's doing is he's looking for a second opinion. And to be honest with you, I think this all stems from the fact that the Mavericks want to move on. I think they're convincing him, no, go talk to a different doctor. Go make sure you're cleared so we can get this trade done and get him out of the building. That is the plan right now for Dallas. I didn't, obviously you can't do that. Gets surgery and is out for multiple weeks. And we're already sitting here talking about how he'll take a job with a contender. First and foremost, you got to get healthy enough to actually play for that contender, sir. And by, ignoring your initial doctor's ideas of you needing a surgery, sometimes can work out with your benefit, but other times, all you're doing is doing yourself a disservice. So what we will see from Anthony here in the next couple of weeks to months is going to be telling. I mean, we talked about it with the guy Snacks on Monday, who said it very vocally. He should just retire at this point.
Right.
I mean, the amount of injuries that you have, the amount of basketball that you haven't played, I'm not sure exactly what it is. You're not the San Francisco 49ers. You're not practicing next to a freaking power plant. So I
Well,
can't
he's
say that that's
definitely
out of
injury
him.
prone, and I mean, I don't see a lot of teams, even if they were to trade for him, it would be nickel and dimes.
Yes. Yeah, no, nobody's going to go top dollar for Anthony. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. It's just the injury history of it all. And like I just said, how often is he even going to play? How often are you even going to see him on the court? You know what I mean? The last two teams that have traded for Anthony have kind of been spurned in that way. I don't see a third team just ignoring that and saying, yeah, no, we'll bring him in. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. No problems here. No, there's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of concerns from a lot of different people. And then one more thing. I know before we get out of here, we only got a couple minutes, but as a Falcons fan, I have to highlight this. We had the press conference yesterday for Mr. Matt Ryan, and I loved every second of it. Really him stomping out all the dumb questions from reporters who were sitting there thinking, oh, are you just going to take the reins as the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons? No. No, he's not. Just like Tom Brady isn't for the Raiders, this isn't a Philip Rivers situation. Instead, he wants to step in and find the right people to fill those jobs, to fill the GM and the head coach and the quarterback job. Which, with him saying that means, at least in my head, he's not fully convinced Michael Penix is that guy.
So do you think, he has said that he's officially stepping away from the broadcasting job. Now, does that open up for maybe the former Steelers coach?
Yes, I would assume so. That'd be a great spot for him to fill if they do end up hiring him. But again, if anything, Tomlin's going to be with his boy Jay Glazer. For people who don't know, Jay Glazer and Mike Tomlin are very, very close. And I think this was in the cards from the get-go. I think Jay's probably been in his ear for the last couple of weeks saying, hey, man, you really don't need to take this. You don't need to deal with this. You don't need to deal with these, unruly Pittsburgh fans who don't respect you and don't actually believe in your talent. Because, I mean, again, the thought of any fan base really calling for this guy's head is wrong because it's Mike Tomlin. The guy wins. Now, does he win Super Bowls lately? No, not in the last 10 years, but he has been there twice. He's won one. He's been a winning coach literally every single season. So the thought of them not, the thought of him coaching anywhere else is baffling to me. I don't think there's any other team that he coaches for. But no, I think he ends up on Fox more than anything with Jay Glazer. And we see the second half of the career that honestly might be more enjoyable to Pittsburgh fans than he was as a head coach.
I mean, being able to coach for almost 20 years, and I mean, you're getting out, retiring, and you have all the money you made, all the relations, and you're going to be stepping into I would say, a lucrative deal with a broadcasting job. I mean, and you're in the late 50s? I mean, this is the dream job for him now.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And again, everybody that has talked about it has said he's amazing on a microphone. I'd love to have him on the television side. Like, I think that you're right. And that is kind of the beauty of his coaching career. Like I said, the Steelers hire young, they keep you for a long time, and you have a brilliant career afterwards, usually in broadcasting. That's Coach Cowher. That's Coach Cowher. Where was he for what? How long was he on? What was he on? NBC or was he on Fox?
Maybe it was Sunday night with NBC.
Yeah.
I mean, and tune in tomorrow. We'll have our boy Anthony and Holt making some money for you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us for the early bird special from 7 to 9 every single day. Join us back here tomorrow, as he said. And honestly, hopefully we have some better news for you guys on some of these coaching hires and where these guys are going to be going, and more baseball news as free agents continue to find homes. But until then, we got to get out of the way for Blech and Abdallah. Marky, let's get out of here, my friend.